Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, was recently forced to abandon his personal email account after security services flagged a suspected Russian cyber attack. According to the book Get In, which chronicles Starmer's ascent to power, this breach was not merely a speculative threat, but a sophisticated operation by Kremlin-linked hackers. And this incident underscores the growing concerns over security of British political communications in an era of escalating cyber warfare. In 2022, while still leader of the opposition, Starmer received an urgent directive from security officials as his personal email account was suspected to have been compromised, and his head of office, Jill Cuthbertson, immediately instructed staff not to contact Starmer through email under any circumstances, and the response was swift. His email was shut down, replaced with a more secure address, and reinforced with two-factor authentication, a precaution that should, in theory, have been implemented long before. The breach was part of a broader Russian cyber offensive, and around the same time, hackers targeted high-profile British Eurosceptics, including former MI6 head Richard Dearlove, whose trove of 20,000 emails was later leaked online. Paul Mason, the left-wing commentator who had informal ties to Starmer's network, was also hacked, with operatives using his contacts to spread malware disguised as embassy invitations. The objective, not just intelligence gathering, but disruption, confusion, and political destabilization. Starmer is not alone in being the target of such attacks. Liz Truss, let me be clear. Liz Truss, while serving as Foreign Secretary, hello, Mr. Lavrov, had her personal phone hacked, allegedly exposing sensitive government discussions. Why would anybody have a sensitive government discussion with Liz Truss, including those on Ukraine? And the breach was discovered during her Tory leadership campaign, but the news was reportedly suppressed. Suppress? Whether out of embarrassment of national security concerns or not, the fact remains that cyber espionage has become one of Russia's most potent weapons in modern warfare, and Britain is in the firing line. In Ukraine, Russian-backed hacking unit Sandworm launched a crippling cyber attack on Kyivstar, the country's largest telecommunications provider, knocking out mobile and internet services for millions. And these operatives had been embedded into Kyivstar's networks for months, potentially siphoning vast amounts of sensitive data before executing their attack. If a company of that scale can be infiltrated, no government, British or otherwise, should feel invincible. The Kremlin, in its usual manner, has sought to muddy the waters. Moscow's response to allegations of cyber warfare activities has been a familiar cocktail of deflection and counter-accusation. Russia's Federal Security Service, the FSB, has accused US intelligence agencies of hacking thousands of Russian iPhones, as well as infiltrating the devices of foreign diplomats from Israel, China, Syria, and NATO member states. Apple, in turn, has denied any collusion with Western governments. Eugene Kaspersky, the CEO of Russian cybersecurity firm Kaspersky Lab, recently revealed that his own employees were victims of an extremely complex cyber attack using an invisible iMessage exploit, potentially a case of Russia's own tactics being used against it. And these incidents highlight the reality of cyber warfare. It's not just about espionage, but about narrative control and political influence. So the lesson for Starmer, and indeed for any public figure, is that cybersecurity is no longer a technical issue for IT departments to handle quietly in the background. It's a matter of national security. And while Starmer's email hack may have resulted in a major intelligence leak, or may not have resulted in a major intelligence leak, the potential for future damage remains high. And given Russia's repeated cyber offences and offensives, the UK should take more proactive steps. It should enhance political cyber hygiene, and politicians should undergo regular cybersecurity training. It should ensure stronger cyber defences for political institutions, and the National Cyber Security Centre must work more closely with parties across the political spectrum to implement robust digital security frameworks. We need a united Western response. Cyber attacks are not isolated incidents. They're part of a global information war, and coordinating with NATO allies and imposing stronger sanctions on Russian cyber actors is essential. And we need greater transparency about and in cyber incidents. The suppression of information about Truss's hack raises concerns. While secrecy is sometimes necessary, there should be a balance between national security and public accountability and public awareness. And Starmer's email breach may seem like an isolated episode, but it is symptomatic of a much larger battle playing out in cyberspace. The UK, like all democratic nations, must assume that its political, economic and security institutions are constantly under digital siege. Cyber warfare is not the future, it's the present, and in this theatre of war, complacency is a luxury that Britain can no longer afford.